It's hard to win on the road, Will. Hey, I believe you. It is hard to win on the road. Now, let's find out if you believe yourself. Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. That's right, it is me, Uncle Lou, live on YouTube for you. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, and in addition to that as well. Hey, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not. We are so close to 75,000 subscribers. Sometimes you're subscribed, but you're not. Just double check, and if you're not, hit that subscribe button. We are almost there. I want to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 games today. Road favorites, right? Road favorites. So the favorite teams got to travel, play away from home. It's hard to win on the road. We hear it all the time. We're going to find out how true that is this week. When we get done with this video, these 6 games here, I want to know how many of these 6 teams are going to lose. It's hard to win on the road, woo. Today's video is brought to you by Sleeper. Shout out to the good people over at Sleeper.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today, get up to $100 credit using the code LOU. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Yeah, make sure you download a Sleeper app today. Help take care of the people that are taking care of us. All right, it's a lot of fun. You'll have a good time with it. All right, I want to start with I'll start with an easy one for you here. Okay, South Florida, the best Group of 5 team, maybe the best Group of 5 team, definitely one of the best Group of 5 teams. Their only loss so far this season was a loss on the road at Miami. They're on the road again this weekend against Memphis. That's right. South Florida on the road at Memphis. Now, Memphis was undefeated. Not a good loss last week for Memphis. They lost to a bad UAB team who's already fired their head coach. So Memphis took their first loss. So you got 2 6-1 teams here. Memphis has a conference loss. South Florida perfect so far in conference, just a 1 loss on the road at Miami. But South Florida, the road team here, they're favored number 18 this week in the AP rankings. I also have them in the YouTube rankings, which is way more important than the AP rankings. Can South Florida go on the road and get the win over Memphis? They're a 6-point favorite. They're a road favorite. They're ranked. Memphis isn't. This feels like an all-in type moment right here for Memphis. If they're going to make a move this season towards the playoffs, it has to happen this Saturday. Unfortunately for the Group of 5, they don't get very many sort of marquee opportunities to sort of showcase themselves or prove themselves. And I'm not going to pretend that 20 million people are going to watch this game, but if by the time this game ends, Memphis does come out on top, I think that will garner a lot more respect nationwide for Memphis as a Group of 5 team this season to be taken seriously as a potential playoff team. Is South Florida going to let that happen? They've looked really, really good. They routed North Texas a couple of weeks ago on the road, which is important to note since this is a road game. So you tell me, it's hard to win on the road. Is South Florida going on the road as a 6-point favorite and losing to a pretty good 6-1 Memphis team? What do you think? No, they're not. I'm taking South Florida. I think South Florida is clearly the best Group of 5 team. Remember, they've beat Boise State. They beat North Texas. They've got some good wins. They've got a Power 5 win, albeit against lowly Florida. Dang, shout out to the Gators, man. You know they ain't got no coach, don't you? Anyway, South Florida on the road at Memphis. What do you think? I think South Florida wins that game. All right, let's move on to an SEC matchup. Here we've got a highly ranked team going on the road to play what I would call a pretty disappointing team in 2025 relative to their expectations. I'm talking about number 4, Alabama, 4th ranked in the AP this week, on the road in Columbia, South Carolina against the Gamecocks. Now, let me be honest with you right up front here. You guys know I do a series of preseason prediction videos where I highlight a bunch of teams. I go through the schedule game by game, and not only do I try to predict teams' records, but if they're going to lose games, I tell you who it is I think they're going to lose to. I did predict Alabama to lose this game on the road at South Carolina in the preseason. I was really high on Alabama. In fact, I had Alabama at 11-1, this being their only loss on the road at South Carolina. Well, turns out they probably are going 11-1, but they already caught their loss. That, of course, was against Florida State early in the year, and they have looked like a completely different team since then. I think Ty Simpson is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He runs that offense at a highly efficient rate. He's good at playing the position of quarterback. I don't know what he's going to do in the NFL or his draft status or what the NFL guys think about his arm. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just talking about watching Ty Simpson play the position of quarterback. He's running that offense really, really well. Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have that offense humming along. The defense has been iffy at times, particularly against the run, but can South Carolina muster enough offense to take advantage of any of that? South Carolina's 3-4. It's been a disappointing season. Lenore Sellers was getting some Heisman buzz entering the season, and it kind of has just fallen apart in Columbia for Shane Beamer in South Carolina this year. The losses are really starting to stack up. They lost again this past weekend. This feels like sort of their last opportunity to get a big win here until the very end of the season when they host their in-state rival Clemson in a non-con game. But in terms of doing anything in the SEC, this seems like South Carolina's last chance to try to sort of pull anything off big win-wise. Alabama's favored by 12 points on the road in South Carolina. So difficult to play on the road. I agree with you. Columbia, South Carolina can be a tough place to play at times, particularly when that South Carolina team is good. But they're not very good. This isn't a night game. It's an afternoon game. A lot of South Carolina fans are running around with pitchforks with the Fire Shane Beamer routine. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand their frustration. They have not played well. Alabama has. Now, Alabama, this will be Alabama's 5th game in a row going back to that Georgia game just to start this run. But just to refresh your memory here, in the last 4 weeks, without a bye, Alabama has played and beaten on the road at Georgia, at home against Vandy, on the road at Missouri, and at home against Tennessee. 4 games, 4 straight weeks, 4 wins, 4 ranked opponents. South Carolina not ranked. Is this sort of a classic letdown spot for Kalen DeBoer? For all the heat Kalen DeBoer took last season, and even this season after that loss to Florida State in week 1, all of his losses seem to come in games like this. He's pretty good against ranked opponents. In fact, I saw a stat the other day. Kalen DeBoer has the highest winning percentage against ranked teams of any coach in college football history. But it's these types of games that he seems to find ways to lose. You look at last year, loss on the road at Vandy, loss on the road at Oklahoma, right? Loss on the road at Tennessee. Well, Tennessee was a pretty good team. In a bowl game, lost in a neutral site to an unranked Michigan team. Beat Georgia last year, though. Beat LSU last year, though. Probably the 2 best SEC teams they played during the regular season. But it's these types of games that have been tripping up Kalen DeBoer. Is it going to happen again to Alabama on the road at South Carolina? Remember, it's tough to win on the road. What do you think? No, it's not. I think Alabama wins this game easily. I think they're in cruise control by the second half. I feel like South Carolina is hitting a point in the season where they're just about ready to sort of just ship it in, mail it in, cash it in, roll their helmet out there and call it a day. It's not gone well for South Carolina. A lot of smoke around Shane Beamer and whether or not he might take the Virginia Tech game if offered. Even if he's not offered, the fans want him gone. They want him fired. It's a lot of resentment and unhappiness floating around Columbia, South Carolina right now. I actually think this would be better for South Carolina if it was an away game. It's not a positive environment right now in Columbia. I think Bama wins and wins easy. All right. Now, we got some that are going to lose. I am going to predict some losses here, so don't think I'm just going to predict all these road teams to win. But let's move on to this one here. Here we go. How about number 22 ranked Texas, 5-2, on the road at unranked Mississippi State, 4-3. Mississippi State's got a pretty good win earlier this year against defending Big 12 champion Arizona State. They lost this past weekend on the road in Gainesville to lowly Florida. It was a close game. They had an opportunity at the end to win it, and they blew it, really. Could have kicked the field goal and won the game anyway. We don't need to relitigate that. Texas, 5-2, lost to Ohio State, right? and lost to that same Florida team. And it wasn't close. They got actually handled by that same Florida team that Mississippi State nearly beat this past weekend. A couple of Mississippi State's losses have been really, really close. They are, I think, probably the most improved team in the SEC from last year to this year. Mississippi State was 2-10 last year. They were absolutely horrific. They're not going to win 10 games or compete for the SEC or a playoff spot this year. I'm not trying to overhype what they are, but compared to where they were at last year to where they're at now, they're a much better team this year. And Texas has struggled on the road. Talked about that game against Florida that they lost. This past weekend, they had to play on the road at Kentucky, and it might have been their worst offensive performance of the season. I mean, it was horrifically bad for Arch Manning and company offensively in that game on the road against Kentucky. It goes to overtime, and thanks to some Kentucky ineptitude, especially when it came to just ridiculous play calling for Kentucky, Texas was lucky to get out of there with a win. Is Mississippi State better than Kentucky? I think they are. Is Mississippi State a more difficult place to play than Kentucky? It can be with the cowbells and that. It's very annoying, extremely annoying. Offensively, Mississippi State is probably going to put up some points in this game. I know Texas has a good defense, but Mississippi State can sling that thing around. They've also got a decent run game. Blake Shapen helps some in that too. That offense over there can be pretty good. Defensively, they've got some holes. Can Texas take advantage of that? I think that'll be the question here. This is the game so far that I think the favorite is at the greatest risk of losing. Texas is a 7-point favorite on the road against Mississippi State. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think Texas is very good, at least not compared to the preseason expectations we were fed all summer. Arch Manning's been a disappointment. Their run game has struggled the majority of the season. I don't like Sark in the play calling. I think he's got to look at something different there. Will he do it? I don't know. These coaches are stubborn and hard-headed. But do you want to be a head coach or do you want to be an offensive coordinator? Because it's two different jobs, bud. So Sark could be needing to make a decision there. I don't think Texas is done losing games this year, whether it's this one or others down the road. I think they're losing multiple more games this season. They got a game coming up on the road at Georgia in a few weeks. Hard to imagine Texas going in there and winning, but they are 5-2, so they still have everything to play for. I think they could lose this one. I'm definitely going to take Mississippi State plus the 7 points, and I would not be surprised if Mississippi State just beats them outright. Texas is a 7-point road favorite. They seem to be teetering to me. If they have another offensive game here like they had last week, I do think they will lose. We'll see. But give me Mississippi State plus the 7. I think Texas is treading on thin ice, as it were. Shout out to the Shorthorn man, though. I'm sure eventually you'll do something that matters. Like, I don't know, go back to the Big 12 maybe. Might be in your best interest if you ever want to win anything again. Texas A&M on the road at LSU. Let's talk about this one. Texas A&M on the road at LSU. This is look, LSU is 5-2. Okay. Now, have they been disappointing this year? Yeah. Some people picked them to win the Natty. I didn't. I was a little lower on them in the offseason than a lot of other people were. But they're 5-2. They're not 2-5. They're not 3-3. They're not 4, they're 5-2. Now, I get it. You thought they were winning a Natty and all this kind of stuff. Maybe that was your fault, not LSU's fault. The talk about Brian Kelly being fired is wild to me. And I'm not some kind of Brian Kelly apologist. I think we know what Brian Kelly is. I think LSU should have known what he was when they brought him in. And what he is this guy right here that's 5-2 at this point in the season. He's never won a big game. What did he do at Notre Dame? He was at Notre Dame for a decade. Beat up on a bunch of service academies and a couple of bad ACC schools a year. Got to 9 or 10 wins, right? Got to a New Year's Six game and lost. Got to the playoffs and lost. Got to an ACC championship game and lost. Every single time. 0 major postseason wins for Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. Now, he averaged 10 wins a year there. I'm not pointing that out to say that he's a terrible coach. He's not a terrible coach. He's one of the best 15 or 20 coaches in America, period. There's no debate. But that's what he is. He's Mark Richt. He's James Franklin. He's Josh Heupel. Like, that's about what he is. So I don't understand why y'all are looking down here at LSU being 5-2 and going, we didn't fire Brian Kelly. That's what Brian Kelly is. What do you think he was going to do when you brought him in? He's only been there 3 or 4 years. He's got a Heisman winner. He played for one SEC championship. Of course, he lost it because that's what he does. He loses those games. So even if you get there, he's not going to win you anything. So I'm a little confused as to why the LSU fans are so up in arms halfway through the season because LSU is 5-2. First of all, you still got everything to play for. So if you think what I've said in the last 5 minutes about Brian Kelly is wrong, or that it's true about Notre Dame, but he can do better at LSU, then what are you upset about? All he's got to do is win his next 4 or 5 games and he's in the playoffs. And so you tell me, if I'm wrong, why are you upset that he's 5-2? All he's got to do is win his next 5 games and he's in the playoffs. Starts this week at home against Texas A&M. Surely he can beat Mike Elko, can he? Surely he can beat Texas 8-4 in a must-win game to keep playoff hopes alive. Surely he can do all that, right, Corn Dog Man? No, he can't. Texas A&M going in there and slap him around. Night game in Death Valley, don't matter. LSU's got no offense. Nussmeier's not hurt. Nussmeier's not hurt. Okay, write that down or staple it to your forehead or something. Nussmeier's not hurt. Okay, this is an excuse that LSU people have come up with to explain away his bad play this year, which is really the same play we saw from him last year, turning the ball over for no reason, not great offensive schemes, play calling questionable, can't run the ball. Now, you fix some stuff defensively, which is great, and, we'll see if you can slow down the Texas A&M offense behind, was it Marcel Reed, the quarterback there, Heisman candidate, Marcel Reed, to say that out loud. No, Texas A&M going in and winning this game. They're a 2.5-point favorite on the road, tough place to play at night. Yeah, I know. Nussmeier's not hurt, okay? If Nussmeier was hurt, he would not have played against Louisiana Tech. I've been over this a million times. First 2 games of the year, he wasn't very good. Y'all came up with this he's hurt excuse. The next game, he comes out, he plays the entire game against Louisiana Tech. Plays good, too. He would not have played that game if he was hurt because the next week you were playing at Ole Miss, a game you ended up losing. If Nussmeier was hurt, he would not have played against Louisiana Tech. So, no, he's not hurt. He's just not as good as you thought he would be. And he's going to show you that again Saturday. I think Texas A&M wins the game. So there you go with that. How about a rivalry game? How about 2 rivalry games? Okay, glad you asked. How about Michigan on the road at Michigan State? Anybody giving Michigan State any chance here at home? I'm not even going to hype this one up. No, I'm not. It's been a disappointing year for Michigan State. Now, with that being said, I don't know, this whole fire Jonathan Smith thing at Michigan State, this is his 2nd year there. He inherited a complete disaster left by Mel Tucker, who got fired late in the process for the off-the-field issues, all that stuff that was going on. And so he walked into a terrible situation at Michigan State. He's a pretty good coach. Look what he did at Oregon State. I don't know. These teams now, I get it. You're looking around and you're seeing Penn State win 9 or 10 games a year and still fire their coach. And we're probably going to have some more of that type of thing happen too. And you go, well, we'll fire our coach too. Yeah. If Michigan State fires Jonathan Smith, they're about dumber than I thought they were. And I wasn't sure that was possible. But anyway, that being said, Michigan State has not been great this year. They're 3-4. Michigan, on the other hand, 5-2 and starting to play better. No, they got whipped by Southern Cal a couple of weeks ago, but they did play pretty good this past weekend. Offensively, they were, I guess, better than they have been when it comes to the passing game. And Bryce Underwear, I mean, look, they got receiver issues too, so it's easy to point to Bryce Underwear, that freshman quarterback, and sort of blame some of the offensive stuff, especially on the road, on him. But they got issues at wide receiver too. Now, they're a 14.5-point favorite here at Michigan State. I will take Michigan State plus 14.5 in a rivalry game here against Michigan. But in terms of like the idea of this video, are these road favorites going to go on the road and lose? No, I don't see any way that Michigan goes on the road and loses here. And I'll tell you this, though, if they do go on the road and lose, Sharon Moore better pack a suitcase and order a U-Haul or 2 men in a truck or whatever he's got to do, which may end up being the case at the end of the year anyway. They may decide to move on from Sharon Moore. You can keep telling me I'm wrong. I might be wrong, but I still think that that's a very strong possibility. It could happen. We'll see. Anyway, I don't think Michigan's going to go on the road here and lose to Michigan State. But I do think it could be closer than that 14.5. One more. We'll finish off with another rivalry. This one also on Saturday night. Tennessee on the road at Kentucky. Josh Heupel on the road. What could go wrong? Well, almost anything could go wrong for our buddy Josh Heupel on the road. Now, he does have that win at Arkansas on the road. That's amazing. Did that game go to overtime? Holy cow. Against not Arkansas, Mississippi State. They beat Arkansas at home. They did manage to beat Mississippi State on the road, although it was a one-possession game and extremely close. And they've got another difficult road game still on the schedule when they got to travel to Gainesville here in about 3 weeks to take on a Florida Gators team that will really have no idea what they're going to look like. They fired Billy Napier, so we don't know what the offense or anything else is going to look like down there for the last month of the season. But this is a game Tennessee's got to win. They're favored by 9 on the road. Tennessee, like LSU, technically still alive for anything and everything, right? Because they've only got the 2 losses. But when you look at their schedule, home games against Oklahoma, and I think Vandy, and look, Tennessee's going to say, oh, we've beaten them 100 years in a row. This is not that Vandy team. Could Tennessee beat them? Yeah, they could. But that's good. That's going to be, it could be the biggest Vandy-Tennessee game ever, because there's a strong possibility Vandy is in that game with 2 losses or less. Tennessee may already have their 3rd loss by then. And wouldn't it be funny if Tennessee plays Vandy the last week of the season and Tennessee is the one playing spoiler? You know, in other words, Tennessee's already got 3 or 4 losses. They're out of it. But Vandy's sitting there at just the 1 or the 2 losses, and Tennessee has a chance to play spoiler and knock Vandy out of a potential playoff. So it'd be kind of funny. But anyway, we'll get to all that when it comes. Kentucky 2-4, absolutely abysmal. Last week against Texas tells you everything you need to know about Kentucky. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't score points. Yet, and then at the end of the game, when they had a chance to win, they still found a way to blow it. Like, they did nothing offensively in that game against Texas. They were terrible. I talked about how bad Texas was. Kentucky was almost as bad offensively as Texas was. And yet and still, they still had an opportunity to beat Texas at home and found a way to blow it in the end. I don't see any way. I don't see Tennessee losing this game. Would it be funny? Yeah, it's always funny when Tennessee loses. It just is. 9 points. I don't trust Kentucky. I don't. The problems that Texas is having offensively, Tennessee does not appear to be having, especially when it comes to throwing the ball. I think Tennessee is going to be able to score some points in this game, and I'm not convinced that Kentucky will. Now, Kentucky has had a couple of games where they've thrown the ball around, and Tennessee has been susceptible to that a couple of times this season, although that was against a couple of pretty high-level teams in Georgia and Bama. But I honestly, in this case, don't think 9 points is enough. I like Tennessee not just to win the game, but to win by more than 9. So there you go. There's a handful of games, 5 or 6. We got road favorites. How many of them will lose? Give me a number down below here. So South Florida at Memphis, Bama at South Carolina, Texas at Mississippi State, Texas A&M at LSU, Michigan at Michigan State, Tennessee at Kentucky. There's only really one road team I actually picked to lose outright. That was Texas at Mississippi State. I think I picked the rest of the road teams to win the game. A couple of them I don't think will cover the spread. So I like Michigan State plus the points. But I don't know. Anyway, so out of those 6 or 7 games, whatever that is, will any of those road teams lose? How many of those road teams will lose? I'm going to go with 1. Could be 2 or 3 for all I know, but I'm going to go with 1. Anyway, I appreciate you watching and have a good morning.